Yo, yo, I'm back. Man, the devil been taking shots. Crazy. And low-key kinda succeeding, but we're back, baby. I'm gonna quickly tell you in this video about something that the devil actually was taking shots at very, very successfully. I did not realize what it was. I couldn't put my finger on why I almost started to the point of backsliding. I just could not understand why things were going incredibly good with God, and then something changed, something got foggy, and all of a sudden I am just slipping. It feels like I can't even stop to the point. Um, that lasted for about a month, and it was crazy because so many addictions came back. So many things. It got to the point where like I started listening to secular music, and I wouldn't even like I couldn't even stop doing that. And I'd pray to God, and it felt like it just kept feeling like I kept getting more and more distant. I kept getting more and more separated, and I just couldn't understand. Like, I'm like, what's going on? Why was everything going well, and all of a sudden I'm just slipping in insane crazy? That's first. Second, I lost all my motivation to do right about anything. Like, not even like God's work, like even business work. Like, I just lost it completely, and my confidence tanked and everything. It just kind of felt like the old Nikita was back, and that was the case until honestly end of last week. So this is the week of today is the 9th of July, and middle of last week I realized something, and I realized what the devil took a shot at and what he successfully compromised until God pointed out. I realized that I started living out of my identity. I had an identity as a victor in Christ. I started learning about the covenant promises, the victory that we get in Christ, the ability to literally stomp out the devil, stomp out the enemy, stomp out the snake, trample on snakes and scorpions, right? I started realizing, and I started accepting it as my part of my identity. I was getting closer to God. I started getting into music. Um, I started doing a lot of even work. Like, in terms of like work, I was pretty happy with the way my work was getting done, the way that everything was growing. So I had that identity where I'd go to the gym, I worked on my business, I read my Bible, getting closer to God, everything like that, right? And then that identity started getting compromised because I just started, listening to a little bit of secular music. Then the swearing came back. All of a sudden, I'm starting to act more and more out of my identity, and then it just spiraled quickly, and my identity got foggy. I started walking around. I started, eating sweets. I started just acting like horrible around people again, right? And it literally got so extremely foggy to the point where like I completely lost it. And all of a sudden, I wake up, I'm just waking up depressed. I just don't want to do anything. I'm lazy, I'm unmotivated, this, that, and the other. Yes, there's seasons to this thing, but I also, there is that identity of the conqueror, of the victor, where like God gave us the power to produce wealth, to live a good life, right? And I started slipping from that identity, and that's what the devil took a shot at. It got so extremely hazy, and as soon as it got hazy, it got messy. And middle of last week, I realized I'm like what really changed? Like, what genuinely changed? Like, why all of a sudden I am just slipping that horribly? And then I realized, like, I started, journaling. I did some psychotic reasoning. This is where you ask yourself a question, like you state the situation, and then you ask yourself, why is that? And then why is that for that question? Why? And I realized that I'm living crazy out of alignment with God. And I realized that a lot of it was just identity. I had an identity of somebody who was getting closer to God, of somebody who was on their grind, let's just put it that way. And that started slipping. I started, instead of putting in the work, I started putting in no work. Instead of getting closer to God, going to church, thinking about making music, putting lyrics together, making these videos as well, I started swearing, cussing, being depressed, just bringing a whole bunch of bad energy around. And I just started acting out of my identity. So as soon as I realized that, I'm like, okay, it's time to rebuild the identity. So now, how do you rebuild it? You just pretty much, you set an identity, which for me, it's pretty much the conqueror in Christ, let's put it that way. And you then build identity. You build proof for that identity. What do I mean by building proof? You put in action. You start bearing the fruit of that identity. What do people who win a lot, what do? They put in consistent action. What do they, people with strong relationship with God, like, what do they do? Encourage others, share the good news, teach, correct, different things like that, right? I am just rebuilding that identity, and I'm holding on for dear life onto the identity of Victor in Christ, literally. Because as soon as I lost that identity, my relationship with God went south, my work, my just life went south, and just everything kind of slipped from there. So that's the message I want to leave with you guys. Find your identity and hold on to it. Obviously, God is the one who you should ask for your identity. Once you find it, though, hold on to it. Thank God for your identity, and in your prayers, consistently reaffirm that identity, because, man, once it gets hazy, it gets messy. Hope you found value in this. If you did, subscribe, follow my socials. There's gonna be, TikTok, all that good stuff in the link below. Aside from that, I think that's it. I'm back, baby.